that we may put aside any self-interest in favor of the good of the entire parish community. And dear Lord, please assist our leaders in Washington as they address the serious negative impact of the many issues that they deal with on a day-to-day basis. And dear Lord, please watch over our troops that are in harm's way or on duty anywhere in the world. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No, you took too long. Turn your mic on. All right, I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight for the Thursday, July 10th meeting of the St. Tammany Parish Council. We are glad to see so many folks here. We want to encourage your participation. Be advised that, once again, that we have speaker cards up here at the front of the room, and that we would ask anyone wishing to speak on any item that's on the agenda to please fill out a speaker card and indicate your interest and your item that you wish to speak about. We will also remind everyone here that you've got 2 minutes to speak on an item generally, but for appeals, we'll have 5 minutes per side with a 2-minute rebuttal. So with that bit of housekeeping out of the way, let me just read a legal notice that we're required to place into the record. Notice is hereby given pursuant to Article 7, Section 23C of the Louisiana Constitution and Revised Statute 471705B that a public hearing of the St. Tammany Parish Council will be held at the regular meeting place, the St. Tammany Parish Council Chambers, 21490 Coop Drive, Mandeville, Louisiana, on Thursday, August 7th, 2014, at 6 p.m., to consider levying additional or increased millage rates without further voter approval, or adopting the adjusted millage rate and rolling forward to a millage rate not to exceed the prior year's maximum. The estimated amount of tax revenues to be collected in the next tax year from the increased millage is $34,787,691, and the amount of the increase in taxes attributable to the millage increase is $3,975,278. All right, with that piece of housekeeping out of the way, then we'll move to presentations. Mr. Bender, I believe you have the first one, which is Business of the Month, KY's Old Town Bicycle Shop.
She's at KY's Old
at
Town
work.
Bicycle Shop.
Typical local business. They got to be run right.
Yes, sir.
Good to see you. And you know Miss Pat, Kevin
How you
Young.
doing? Thank you.
Let me first say to the council and the audience, KY's is not an Old Town Bicycle Shop. It used to be an Old Town Bicycle Shop. For all of us who've had the pleasure to eat there many times, Kevin and his wife Linda Young converted the Old Town Bicycle Shop into an eatery, and they have excellent food, lunch or dinner, very, very good service. The quality is great. You can tell Linda's not here tonight because she's taking care of the quality and customer service, typical of our local businesses.
Yes, sir.
They got to put their time in, and every time I go there, Kevin and Linda are there, or at least one of them's there. Have an excellent staff, friendly people, and they've made a good business there now for 22 years.
Yes, sir.
So let me read this quick. St. Tammany Parish Government Certificate of Recognition, Business of the Month, KY's Old Town Bicycle Shop. I highly recommend the grilled shrimp. Excellent. Little plug.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, somebody said yes. Who said nacho?
I did.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
The nacho cheese and chips. The St. Tammany Parish Council formally recognizes KY's Old Town Bicycle Shop for their 22 years of service and dedication to St. Tammany Parish, and the certificate of recognition was unanimously approved by myself, Ms. Pat, and our colleagues on July 10, 2014, signed by Ms. Pat as Parish President and myself as the councilman for your district
Thank you, sir.
with honors.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks for coming back.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Say a few words.
you.
Feel free.
Thank you to everybody, and I got to get back to work.
Can you stay long enough for a picture?
Oh, sure.
Hold you.
I'll take that for you.
Congratulate Linda. Here.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Kevin.
The next item under presentations is a presentation by the Templari Navitas Group. Mr. Groby.
Thank you. I've asked the representatives for the Templari Nevadas Group to come up here and present to the council and the public their ideas about helping veterans. Mr. Michael? Yes, sir. Go ahead and start your.
I'm ready to go here. Someone said you were going to send that live.
There we go.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having us. DTN, Diminuti Templari Navitas, is an organization, is a nonprofit, for-profit collaboration, headquartered in California at the moment, and looking at an opportunity to reach out to St. Tammany Parish in the greater New Orleans area. Our mission, our primary mission, is to provide housing for our veterans. The housing that we're providing is a byproduct of the business operation that we have in a third location. We have the opportunity to liquidate those resources at a minimal profit or with a little bit of improvement. We can take those items, repurpose them, improve them, and provide them to our veterans. We do this at no cost to the veteran. Internal operations will support what we're doing. Collaborations with other organizations and another team of companies will provide the financial resources that veterans will need to secure the land in which their housing units will go upon. Our operation is in 4 phases. We've entered into phase 3 of this operation, and with that, we're reaching out to the local communities to establish our relationships, to know that where we have the greatest amount of support, to ease the entry of our housing units to the veterans in that community. To do that, we need to establish collaborations with government officials, local authorities. Our 3-pronged approach is to collaborate with Parish, reach out to local law enforcement, and to the Louisiana Army National Guard. That collaboration will see that we can produce our product on site, deliver it to a veteran at no cost, and at no cost to the parish. Our offer is that we produce these units, we transfer these units, collaborate with the parish through a series of individuals that the parish, the local law enforcement, and the state adjutant would hire through a grant provided by our organization. So, in essence, their operations are at no cost to the parish, the communities in which they're working in, and the agencies in which they're attached to. I'll go back one. As you saw, there are 3 different blueprints, various sizes. They do accommodate those individuals that are handy capable. They'll meet local codes. They meet HUD, Fannie Mae, and Freddie Mac standards. Again, as we said, we're looking to collaborate with the parish, local law enforcement, and the Louisiana Army National Guard in such a fashion to where we can maximize the attributes of those individuals in our organization, streamline the process as much as possible, increasing our efficiency and our impact in the veterans community. In addition to what we're doing, we'll be providing grants to local veterans organizations in the parish, upwards of $1.8 million on an annual basis, on a recurring basis. We have a simple process, application process. We don't want this to be complicated. We want to be this as simplistic as possible for the benefit of the veteran. The impacts are obvious. We know that we have veterans issues in every community in the country. Our offer, our proposal, is set in such a fashion to impact that need at the least amount of cost to the organizations that work with us within those local communities. Again, thank you for giving me the time to speak with you. We hope that we can establish a relationship and forge a partnership where we, in conjunction with the parish, can go out and have a positive impact on the veterans community. We're available at any time for comment, consultation. You have our contact information, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have two additional presentations that are on the items off the floor agenda, making up the entirety of the off the floor agenda. I need a motion to open the off the floor agenda. Motion by Mr. Stefanik, seconded by Ms. O'Brien. Please vote on opening the off the floor agenda.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Very well, then, the first presentation off of the items off the floor is a presentation by Paul Rivera, Secretary-Treasurer of the Louisiana Government Finance Officers Association, of the GFOA Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. Ms. Brister, I believe that.
Yes. Would you please come up, Mr. Rivera? And Leslie, if you will stand there with him, please. We're very proud to have Mr. Rivera here for this presentation, and it's going to sound familiar because it's not the first time our finance department has received it. So I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Rivera. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, I'm the Secretary-Treasurer of the Louisiana Government Finance Officers Association, and I'm here tonight to award the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting to the St. Tammany Parish government. This is actually a national organization out of the United States and Canada, GFOA, and it's for the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report for the year ended December 31st, 2012. The certificate is actually the highest form of recognition in the area of government accounting and financial reporting, and it's a significant accomplishment by our government and its staff. The achievement should not be taken lightly. Again, this is the 10th year, I think, that you guys have received it. And in Louisiana, there's only about 50 governments that actually receive this award each year. Only 11 of the 64 parishes actually take the time to prepare a good comprehensive annual financial report that meets these requirements. One thing I can tell you is from the citizen standpoint, Wall Street always looks favorably upon a government that has the certificate, because that means that the CAFR was presented and prepared with all the full accountability and full disclosure. So it's, again, a very hard certificate to attain. And again, 10 years is quite an accomplishment for you guys, so congratulations on that. And with that, I'd like to present the plaque. It's changed a little bit this year. They used to do an individual plaque. Now they're doing one where you could add on, I guess each year that you guys win this. We've got a bunch of empty spots here, so hopefully we'll fill that down the line. But this goes to Parish President Brister and Leslie Long, Director of Finance.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, while they're taking that picture, I certainly want to thank Leslie and her entire department. They work tirelessly, and we, as you know, all know, we've had a few unusual circumstances in the last year that they have had to overcome, and they did, and just continued to work on it. And I am very proud to be the president of this parish and know that it's in such great financial shape because of Leslie and her department. Thank you, Leslie. While we're on that, Mr. Chairman, Eric Bosch is here. If you want, he can give some audit results now, or if you'd like to wait till later in the...
Fine.
Eric, if you want to come for a short presentation on audit results.
While he's coming to the podium, I'll just add, on behalf of my colleagues of the council, Leslie, you do a great job, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
And I might, if you, If you don't mind, I was just going to thank everyone, the administration, the council, especially all the departments, and like Pat said, our staff. Laura kind of took on this project, I've told y'all before, about 10 years ago, and, so we're really proud of all the work they've done, and we hope to fill up this plaque with lots of years.
We'll count on it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you all for having me here this evening. Again, congratulations to Leslie, to the whole group. They do a fantastic job. I've been involved with St. Tammany now for at least those 10 years. So definitely appreciate all the hard work that they do. Just a quick synopsis as far as for the 2013 audit. We wrapped that up just recently. Again, sincere thanks to the entire administration for everyone as far as with the assistance that they provide. The questions are answered quickly. The information is provided very quickly. It's in order. It's easy to get through. So we definitely appreciate that. Just some other housekeeping matters. We didn't have any disagreements with management in regards to accounting matters. Again, really no difficulties as far as in performing our audit. Again, the assistance, the information was there, and we certainly appreciate that. And finally, we didn't have any audit adjustments as far as with the financial statements. So basically, the information that you may have received previously as far as the internal information, the internal financial information provided and presented is consistent as far as with the audit. Ultimately, we do provide the GASB 34 model, which is the full accrual method of accounting along with the fund financial statements. In regards to the auditor's reports, as been the case in the prior years, we've got 3 different reports that we provide. The first one is our opinion on the financial statements themselves. This year, we have a complete unmodified or unqualified opinion on the financial statements. There are no departures from generally accepted accounting principles, nor were there any scope exceptions. Previous year, we had the exception as far as with the modification for the coroner. But this year, we were able to do some additional procedures at the coroner's office to get satisfaction as far as with their financial statements, with the financial information, as it pertains to the component units as a whole. So again, we don't have a modification as far as for the discretely presented component units. As far as with the second report, the report on compliance on internal control and financial reporting, again, this is the area that we're testing internal controls as well as compliance with the significant laws and regulations that are directed by the legislative auditor. We follow their program, budget, bid law, debt restriction laws, fiscal agency, cash management, et cetera. We also test credit card transactions, vehicle usage, vehicle allowance, the accrued absences, overtime, vendor verification, as well as far as from disbursements test. We had no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in regards to that testing, in regards to controls over financial reporting. We did issue a separate management letter regarding a control deficiency with payroll that we've addressed with management, and we believe that corrective action has been implemented to address that. The final report is in regards to compliance over internal control for the major federal awards. Again, these are the significant grants that are funded by the federal government. They may be passed through by different agencies, whether through a Louisiana agency or come directly to St. Tammany Parish. In regards to that report, we did not have any instances of noncompliance, nor did we identify any control deficiencies in regards to compliance over those significant elements pertaining to those major federal awards that we had tested. So in a nutshell, a pretty clean opinion, and again, congratulations back to the administration and to the staff as far as with the work that they do. So.
All right, Mr. Bosch, thank you.
Thank you all very much. All right. All right, Leslie.
Always get good news to get a clean bill of health. All right, the second presentation under the off-the-floor agenda will be a presentation to Rusty Waldrop in recognition of his service to St. Tammany Parish. Madam President. Sure.
This is our Rusty with a Y. We have a Rusty with an I also. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rusty Waldrop started his career with St. Tammany Parish running a young adult conservation corps camp. During this 30-plus year career, he has held a variety of responsibilities and roles, which include managing renovations in the Bogafalaya Park, working on several historic site surveys. He was interim director for both the planning and MIS departments, and he worked on the last 3 census programs. He laid the foundation for our GIS department in 1985 when he began to create a digital map of the parish. In 2000, he became the parish's first GIS manager when the department was formed. During this time, as manager, the department was able to obtain the parish's first digital imagery. The online GIS interactive map was introduced, and he helped to formulate the Enterprise Date Sharing Project, EDSP, which was the foundation of our GIS district. Under his leadership, the GIS department produced over 140 maps to assist in the documentation of the extent of damage due to Hurricane Katrina, and the department expanded imagery to provide a comprehensive picture of the effects of life in St. Tammany after that storm. We appreciate his years more than I can say of dedication as he has served to the parish, and we hope you will enjoy I hope he will enjoy his well-deserved retirement. Rusty, it won't be the same, not seeing you every morning, but thank you for all you've done for this parish. For many, many years.
Thank y'all. It's been a long time coming, and I've enjoyed it. It's been a roller coaster. We've been through the parish council twice. This is round 2. Parish police jury. Many of these people I know have known for most of the trip up here. Red, Mr. Savancic. And amazingly, some of them have changed positions. Ms. Brister, you've gone through quite a few changes as well. And it's been fun. It's been a challenge, but now it's time for me to step down and let somebody else continue the journey with the GIS, trying to move it forward into the 21st century. It's been a pleasure and an honor to serve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good time this time. I'll see you at the football game.
Thank you. Enjoy.
All right, that concludes our presentations for tonight. We'll move then to the consent calendar. As I've explained before, we're going to approve the consent calendar in one vote. So for those of you that have not attended a council meeting before, we'll be soliciting items to pull from that single vote to discuss individual items off of that agenda. So the items that I have so far are under items for introduction, ordinances for introduction. Item number 8, which is ordinance calendar number 5227. Mr. Belisario, I believe you wanted to pull item number 12, right?
That's correct.
Item number 12, which is ordinance calendar number 5231. And then moving to the resolutions, I have on my list item number 17, which is Resolution CS number C-4115. Item number 18, which is Resolution CS number C-4116. And item number 19, which is Resolution CS number C-4117. Then members of the public have asked to pull additional items which would be item number 5 under resolutions, Resolution CS number C-4103. Item number 6, which is Resolution CS number C-4104. Item number 7, which is Resolution CS number C-4105. And finally, Resolution number 8, Resolution CS number C-4106. Now I will ask my colleagues if they have additional items they wish to pull from the calendar. Mr. Sharp, Mr. Thompson, Mr. Gould, Mr. Tanner, Mr. Groby, Mr. Canulet, Mr. Bellisario, Ms. O'Brien, Mr. Stefanski, Mr. Bender, Mr. Artigue, Mr. Smith.
And the resolution is number 4.
Resolution number 4, which is Resolution CS number C-4102. Is that it, Mr. Smith? Thank you. Ms. Brister, anything from the administration? Very well, then. Those are the items that we will pull for individual consideration, and I will ask in a second for a motion to approve the balance of the consent calendar. But before I do that, I want to point out to my colleagues that we have actually 4 items of minutes this time. We had 2 special council meetings, 2 special council meetings, plus the regular council meeting from last month, and of course our committees from Wednesday of last week. So is there an objection to including any of the minutes? Have you all had an opportunity to review them? Mr. Stefanski?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve the consent calendar by Mr. Stefanski, seconded by Mr. Groby. Any further discussion on the consent calendar motion? Not appearing, then please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
All right, with that action, then the balance of the items have been approved. We have pulled for discussion the first item under ordinances for introduction, item number 8, ordinance calendar number 5227, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 3.87 acres from NC4 to ED2, Ward 1, District 1. Mr. Henderson.
Yes, Chairman Gould, Falconer. There's a little housekeeping that we need to do on this particular ordinance. This particular parcel of land went before the zoning commission, and they approved its zoning change. However, after the zoning meeting, it was found out and acknowledged that this particular parcel is in a moratorium area and cannot be changed. Next month on the agenda, you'll find a resolution releasing this parcel from the moratorium.
All right, by that then I understand we're going to need a motion to postpone this item?
No.
Or remove it?
No. I think we're fine because the resolution will be adopted prior to the ordinance coming up for
So then
adoption.
we just need a motion then to approve. Or introduce, I'm sorry. Motion by Mr. Gould, seconded by Mr. Tanner, then to introduce that item. Thank you, Mr. Henderson. We'll move to item number 12 then, ordinance calendar number 5231, ordinance to amend the 2014 operating budget, amendment number 6. Mr. Bellisario.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Falconer. I'm fully supportive of what is here, but what I wanted to bring up, under the Fund 020 in the Environmental Services Fund, is talking about establishing a household hazardous waste facility at Louisiana 59 transfer station with Stranco. I'm requesting the administration to do the same thing on the eastern side. In my area, there's a lot of people who do recycling, and they're calling me and come to my meetings and ask where can they dispose of this stuff. Since we're looking at this opportunity, I'd like to see if we can extend that on the eastern side of the parish.
Yes, sir, we are, and it has taken us quite some time to get this one, but we are continuing to look and make sure, and we are also endeavoring to make it more of a regular event instead of just once a year or whatever, so it doesn't tie up the traffic as much. So we are looking for the spots to do that. Sorry? And if we can't do them both at the same time, we'll alternate them back and forth when we do find that spot that we, can use. But
All right,
yes, sir,
thank
we
you.
are.
You want to make the motion then, Mr.
Yes.
Bellisario?
Yes, I'll make a motion to
Introduce.
move.
All right, motion to introduce by Mr. Belisario, seconded by Mr. Canulet. Thank you. All right, that concludes then ordinances for introduction. We'll move to resolutions. The first item pulled is Resolution CS number 4102, resolution to acknowledge the authority for Parish President to execute a cooperative endeavor agreement with the City of Slidell. That's Ward 8, District 12. I believe you asked to have this pulled, Mr. Smith?
Yeah, and I rescind that motion to pull that. I have got my information answered, so
Okay, good. Well, you want to go ahead and make a motion to...
will do.
Motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Bender. Is there any further discussion on this resolution? Anything from the administration? Nothing from the public? All right, then, please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
All right, next item pulled from resolutions is resolution item number 5, resolution CS number C-4103, resolution to acknowledge the authority for parish president to execute a cooperative endeavor agreement with the St. Tammany Parish School Board. I believe, Ms. Stevens, you were the one that asked to have this pulled. Member of the public, would you approach the podium, and remember you have 2 minutes.
Terry Stevens, 725 Dove Park Road. This has to do with all cooperative endeavor agreements, and what I'm hoping is that the council will consider for the future and in the future to ask the administration to publish all CEAs, cooperative endeavor agreements, online so that all of the public would be available or would have that document available to review in the interest of transparency, and because public funds are at stake. Public funds are being spent in all cooperative endeavor agreements that I'm aware of. I think it's important that everyone have the opportunity to review those, just as you would be able to review those online and at our convenience, so that we can discuss them with you if we need to, or partake in the process. So I would hope that you would consider that in the future, and that has to do with all of them tonight and going forward, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. Is there any further discussion on this item? Mr. Tanner.
I move the resolution for adoption.
Great, thank you. Motion by Mr. Tanner, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Any further discussion? And we need to clear the machine. Sorry. Anything from the administration? We're clear? All right, then, please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
The next item that was pulled from the consent calendar is item number 6, resolution CS number C-4104, resolution to acknowledge the authority for parish president to execute a cooperative endeavor agreement with the Office of the State Fire Marshal. Ms. Stevens, I believe you pulled this one as well. Same comment. Same comment, great, thank you. Is there a motion for this resolution? Motion by Mr. Belisario, seconded by Mr. Canulet. Any further discussion on the resolution? Anything from the administration? None appearing, then please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
The additional, and the next item that was pulled from the consent calendar is item number 7, resolution CS number C-4105, resolution to acknowledge the authority for the parish president to execute a cooperative endeavor agreement with the Chafuncta River Foundation. Ms. Stevens, you asked this to be pulled. Can we assume the same comment? Great, thank you. Is there a motion on this resolution? Motion by Mr. Stefancic, seconded by Mr. Smith. Any discussion on this item? Anything from the administration? None appearing, then please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
The final item under resolutions is item number 8, resolution CS number C-4106, resolution to acknowledge the receipt and review of the 2014 Municipal Water Pollution Prevention Environmental Audit Report for the Preferred Equities Wastewater Treatment Facility, District 5, Ward 4. Ms. Teresa DeLeon, I believe you asked to have this pulled. Yes, I did. Would you like to step up to the podium and make your comments? Be reminded you have 2 minutes after you get to the podium.
Hi, my name is Teresa DeLeon, 642 Dean Street, Mandeville. I want to know, or I'm here to state, that I would like for the same acknowledgements that are being made for the wastewater plants and where wastewater goes to be taken as seriously as fracking and that wastewater and where that is going to go. I am on this whole bag of medications for the rest of my life due to wastewater and the uncompliance and people doing stuff under the table because of wastewater being not treated the way it's supposed to be treated. Fracking water is not, it's not treated by the wastewater plants. It's too far under the surface. Wastewater plants only take care of the surface water, and I want to make sure that y'all are aware that fracking does kill people. It does make people sick, and my child is going to be going to Mandeville High School, and I refuse to allow people to care about wastewater when it's on one subject but not on the other. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. DeLeon. All right, are there any further comments on this item? A motion to approve the resolution. Motion by Mr. Gould, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Any further comments? Anything from the administration? None appearing, please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
All right, the next item pulled was item number 17, Resolution CS number C-4115, resolution to concur or not concur with the Slidell annexation of 2.4 acres from Parish HC2 to Slidell C4, Highway Commercial District, Ward 8, District 12. Mr. Bender.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion to concur.
All right, motion by Mr. Bender, seconded by Mr. Canulet to concur with the annexation. Is there any further discussion on this item? Anything from the administration? All right, none appearing, then please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Next item is item 18, Resolution CS number C-4116, resolution to concur or not concur with Slidell annexation of 1.5 acres from Parish A4 to Slidell A8, High-Density Urban District, Ward 9, District 12. Mr. Bender.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I want to ask Mr. Fontenot a question. Sidney, are you personally familiar with this request for annexation?
I reviewed the file and what they're requesting to do. The biggest notation that we made was that you're going to a high-density, almost apartment setting as opposed to single-family residential quarter-acre lots. So it's an intensification of zoning. It is not intensification to a commercial district that would affect the sales tax agreement.
And one of my concerns is knowing where Faith Drive is located. You're reading Slidell A8 High Density Urban District as allowing apartment complexes?
I don't recall the specific density, but I have to check, but a high-density urban district would be a...
Okay. And I have a little bit of a concern, but at the same time, not so much of a concern, because the city of Slidell, some years ago, after I had moved on, passed an ordinance that you had to have a considerably more acreage than 1.5 acres for apartments. It's more like 20 acres, okay? So we have no indication of what the anticipated usage is for this?
I don't recall anything in the file. Look really quick. And generally, we don't have a proposed use in the annexation files. There is a larger building across Faith Drive. Trying to remember if that's a church. Calvary Baptist Church, I believe.
Correct.
They talk about their quarterly meeting. They have it part of the petition. It looks like they may be the petitioner.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as other larger no other large uses in that area.
Okay, what I would like to, Mr. Chairman, could I ask Mr. Hand a question?
Certainly.
Mr. Hand, how can I postpone this for 1 month? Because I need to get much more information from the city on this.
You just need to make a motion to postpone for 1 month.
But I don't.
What is the
But-
time period? Did they petition?
That's what we need to know.
That's my
Okay.
question,
All
why
right.
I'm questioning this.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
But our next council meeting is within 30 days. And I think the max, correct, Steve, is 30 days? Okay, so if I postpone until,
That's from the time they got it in our office, so when did we get it in the office? Excuse me, that's, we get it in the office, and I think they need to go back and find that out for you, Jerry.
Well, in your packet, you'll note that there's a date stamp of May 13th
okay,
for a letter dated May 9th advising of the annexation. So
That's it, you're past,
counting forward from that date,
you're past.
we
27th of July.
we may not have enough time to get
Right.
to the August meeting date under the sales tax agreement with the city. So, Mr. Bender, you may want to consider, if you have concerns, moving to not concur with the annexation, but
And then bring it
with a
back
statement
next
that you
month.
intend to revisit it if necessary at the August meeting.
and I appreciate that. Some time ago, back when, I tried to make it, clear that we needed good communication on these types of things, and I want that opportunity to find out more specifically what is the intent here. I know, and my concern is because I know it's Calvary Baptist Church that's located across the street. It may be a perfectly appropriate usage, but I'd like to check on it. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to not concur, but that I'd like it to be on next month's agenda again to come up for concurrence, to allow me that time period to find out from Slido Planning Department what's the purpose.
All right, motion not concur by Mr. Bender, seconded by Mr. Artigue. Is there, Mr. Belisario, do you have further discussion?
Yeah,
Mr.
Mr.
Bender?
Chairman, I guess Mr. Stefanczyk is saying to bring it back up for reconsideration for concurrence on the August agenda. Thank you,
Right.
Mr. Stefanczyk.
Right, okay, so we're clear, you're going to not concur here with the stipulation that we will readdress in August.
Yes.
That's seconded by Mr. Artigue. Any further discussion? Anything from the administration? None appearing, then please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
All right, the next item under resolutions, item number 19, Resolution CS number C-4117, resolution to concur or not concur with Slidell annexation of 1 acre located on Pearl Acres Road from Parish HC2 to Slidell C4. That would be Mr. Artigue. Motion to concur, seconded by Mr. Canulet. Any further discussion on this item? Anything from the administration? None appearing, then please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
That concludes our discussion of the consent calendar. We'll move now to the area of appeals on the agenda. The first appeal is an appeal by Dawn Call and Keith Province, appealing zoning commission approval on April 1st, 2014 to rezone 3.5 acres located north of Nina Drive, west of Transmitter Road, Oak Lawn East subdivision from A4 single-family residential to A4 single-family residential and manufactured housing overlay, Ward 7, District 7. Before we begin, I'll remind the public that we'll have 5 minutes of 5 minutes in favor, 5 minutes opposed, and then we'll leave 2 minutes for rebuttal afterwards. Please use that time wisely and keep your comments on point, and try not to repeat what has been said previously, because you're going to find your time is very precious when you get up there. Mr. Grovey, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to go ahead and invite the appellants to come up and make their presentation.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Honorable Council. I'd like to pass out some handouts for the council members. Do you have an extra copy for Mr. Shane? My name is Paul Tabry, and I represent what I believe to be the majority of the property owners in Oak Lawn East subdivision. And we are appealing the zoning commission's approval or recommendation to this council of allowing a mobile home overlay. As the council members are aware, that the zoning in Oak Lawn East is single-family residential. In the packages that we've provided to you, we have a map. We've provided a map that sets forth the blue dots represent all the homes, the stick-built homes and brick homes that are in the subdivision. The red dots represent the mobile homes that are located in the subdivision. I would point out to the council that the mobile homes that are in the subdivision came into the subdivision without any prior zoning commission approval or mobile home overlay, and the majority came in around Katrina or before. Since Hurricane Katrina, the majority is homes, and the mobile homes are decreasing. The last mobile home that was put in this subdivision was in 2008. They just finished a beautiful home that was just completed in 2014. Presently, there are 98 residences in this subdivision. Of the 98 residences, 65% are homes and 35% are mobile homes. It is our position that this property, this subdivision, is owned single-family residential. And these people, when they came in, they bought their homes or they built their homes, they built it with the intention that they would remain with that zoning and that their homes would not be adjacent to mobile homes. Mobile homes are fine, people live there all the time, but it is our position that mobile homes depreciate the minute they hit the lot. These homes, these people have built their lives in these homes, have spent their income, and we believe that the placing of these homes will depreciate the value of their homes and depreciate the value of their lives in this neighborhood. This council has never granted an MHO overlay in this subdivision. The subdivision originally in 1960, subdivision restrictions were set forth, and in those restrictions, it did not allow for mobile homes. What took place is over the years, mobile homes began to come in, and now they have, as I pointed out, approximately 33 or 34 mobile homes, which probably, as far as judicially enforcing the restriction, would make that a waste of time. But the zoning is still there. It's still single-family residential. These people bought their homes, built their homes, and we suggest to the council that the zoning should remain in place and that variances should not be granted. All of the folks that I represent here, and I believe they're all here, the majority of the homeowners here, are all opposed to this. Now, this property came before this council in 2011. Mr. Fridge applied to the zoning commission in 2011, and he requested a mobile home overlay. The zoning commission granted it and recommended that this council grant it. I believe the majority of the council members here today was on that council. Mr. Fridge, at that council meeting, told the council that it was his intention that he was going to place one mobile home on this 3.5-acre lot that he has there. This council unanimously, on that evening, denied the mobile home overlay. The only difference between 2011 and today is that today, Mr. Fridge is requesting a mobile home overlay, but now he wants to put 2 mobile homes. He wants to re-subdivide the lot, and he's asking for 2. That is the only difference than what was presented to this council 3 years ago, in which you denied the overlay. It should be noted, and I realize that Mr. Fridge is allowed to build a home, and he could rent the home as long as it's single-family residential, but it is Mr. Fridge's intention for this lot to not have his own mobile home, or not to buy this mobile, but to have his, basically he wants to rent his land and have mobile home owners come in and out. It'll look like a trailer park. I would one final thing. In the zoning commission, it was mentioned that the area, if you include Timberland Trailer Park, would be a majority of mobile homes. I submit to you that Timberland Trailer Park is more than a half a mile from the nearest entrance into this subdivision, and is not an area that should be included or even considered in determining whether or not this overlay should be granted. The council in 2011 said there was a predominance of homes and not mobile homes, and therefore they refused to grant it. That predominance exists today, and I would respectfully request that this council deny the mobile home overlay request. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Shane.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Falconer. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm in Covington, and I represent Michael Fridge, who is the owner of these 2 lots and the petitioner that asked you to eventually ordain that the manufactured housing overlay district be added to the current A4 zoning that he has on this property. I think that the case requires that we at least discuss a little bit about the history of this property. When my client purchased it in 2007, it had a mobile home on it for a variety of reasons, I think all of which were good as it relates to the well-being of the neighborhood. My client had a problem with the tenant, and not only had the tenant removed from the property, but also had the mobile home removed from the property. In fact, he had it demolished. During comprehensive rezoning, which was adopted by you in 2009, my client did not seek an MHO designation. And I might add, nor did any of the other many trailers in this area seek an MHO designation. That is not to suggest fault on the part of the other residents. It's only to suggest that many of these mobile homes have been in place in this subdivision for a very long time, because it has a character of being mixed with both stick-built and mobile homes. It is correct that my client sought to get an MHO designation in 2011. And as I've told you by the letter which I provided you another copy this evening, I think it's very interesting and important that staff recommended that the MHO be granted for these 2 lots. In fact, I think it's interesting to note that the Zoning Commission in 2011 unanimously recommended the MHO zone for these 2 lots. Yes, it's true that Mr. Hamway moved to override, and the council that was seated in 2011 sought to support that motion to override. My client now has embarked on a plan to try to put the property into service, and he believes that he's had it on the market, and it's been impossible for him to attract either a purchaser of the property or a builder that would want to come in and put stick-built homes. And you might ask, well, why? I think it's because there's clearly a mixed relationship of stick-built and mobile homes throughout the community. In fact, if you look at the packet I've given you, in particular, the pictures that I provided you appended to my letter, you will not only see my client's 3.5 acres, which is actually 2 lots, I might add, to correct Mr. Tabry. It always has been and continues to be 2 lots, and this request would only allow 1 mobile home per lot. But it also shows you a double-wide trailer that's literally across the street, right across the driveway from my client's property. So my client determined in 2014 that he would make another stab at it, but rather than taking a chance and perhaps putting trailers in and merely renting it to people who might not end up being good tenants or good neighbors, he embarks on a business plan wherein he's going to find people that own their own trailers, that have not only an ownership interest but pride in ownership, and would want to be on what I will call a really pretty piece of property. The picture, I think, speaks for itself. These 2 lots, we have offered to re-subdivide them so the 2 lots would be more equal in size, about 1.75 acres each, which is probably larger than any 2 lots side by side in the entire subdivision. So in 2014, we have filed this request. Once again, we get a staff report recommendation that the property, in fact, receive the MHO overlay. And what does the staff talk about? They talk about the fact that there are trailers not only in the vicinity but throughout the neighborhood. I think it's also interesting that the same opposition came to the zoning commission meeting when this case was heard, and after considerable discussion and debate, the zoning commission again unanimously recommended the MHO for these 2 lots. So what does that tell us? We've got a piece of property that had a trailer on it when my client bought it. We have a piece of property, 2 lots, if you will, that have now been through the process twice, each time with what I will refer to as a resounding recommendation via the staff approval and a unanimous recommendation from the zoning commission. And I think there's a reason why. It's not a question of how many stick-built homes there are or how many mobile homes there are. I don't think in this country, in this parish, or in this subdivision, we should be counting noses to determine who's in a mobile home and who's in a stick-built home. I agree with Mr. Tabry on one point. That's 5 minutes?
That's your 5 minutes.
Thank you. I'll take some of my rebuttal time now, please. I think Mr. Tabry's point that this is a single-family residential subdivision is the key. It will continue to be a single-family residential subdivision. But there's no reason, as the statistics I have provided you suggest, when you have 38% of the neighborhood that is mobile homes and have been for a long time, it would be unfair to deny my client the opportunity to do the same thing that many of his neighbors have done. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Shane. Mr. Tabry, you have 2 minutes rebuttal.
Although there are 35% mobile homes, those mobile homes that are there right now came in there without this council's approval and without zoning commission. Mr. Fridge, when he purchased the property in 2007, knew the zoning, and he knew it was single-family residential. He knew that he would have to ask this council for a variance. And last, on Nina Drive, where he is seeking to do this, there are 24 homes and 7 mobile homes. What the families and what the residents and what the property owners are asking this council is to abide by the zoning law and to make this a single-family residential and allow their property to continue to appreciate as opposed to depreciate it. We grant 1 mobile home overlay, and then we'll see everything change. I respectfully request that you deny the mobile home overlay. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Svancic, how much time do they have left for rebuttal? Minute and 15 seconds. Does anyone else wish to speak in rebuttal? And in favor of the appellant? Please. Yes.
You know, this is my neighbor.
Wait. Get to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Jason Call. I live at 30201 Nina Drive. This property butts up against my house, and I'm fixing to spend $82,000 in getting a VA grant to get my house modified. It is going to be pushed directly towards this property in order to get my house modified. So all of this traffic is going to be going in and out, right out of my bedroom door. I can't get my house modified in any other direction besides this way. And we've already gone through the process. We've already came here the last time before y'all, and we've already done this before. I remember doing this. We came to the council 2 years ago, and we've done this before. And y'all all agreed with us that this should be denied, and that's the only thing we're doing. We're coming to y'all again, and we're asking y'all to deny this one more time. And we thank you for your time. Thank you very much.
Mr. Carl, thank you. And on behalf of the grateful citizens of the United States of America, we thank you for your service. Mr. Shane, I think you have a minute or so left. Mr. Stefancic, will you verify the time? Minute and a half.
Thank you, sir. When my client bought the property, yes, it's correct that the property was zoned single-family residential, but again, that's not the issue. Also, when my client bought the property, there was a mobile home in place. There was a 1960 deed restriction that had been violated so many times that that restriction has lapsed and is literally unenforceable today. It was very obvious that there were numerous trailers. By our count, as proposed to you and given to my letter, it shows that there is at least 38% of this area that have trailers. With regard to the gentleman that last spoke, there is no interference, there will be no interference as it relates to the use of our property and the improvements to his property. And for that matter, there's a trailer across the street from his home. And we don't say that in a negative manner. I only say that to suggest that I think everyone should have an opportunity to own property and utilize their property in a consistent and compatible manner as with their neighbors. If this were the first trailer in an area that had never had trailers, we'd have a different case altogether. But you know what? It's not. And most of the lots in that subdivision are developed. The thought that changing these two lots is going to create a trend simply isn't the case, because most of the lots are built out. I think it's only fair.
Please.
I think it's only fair that my client be given the same opportunity to use his property in the manner that he would like to, that is consistent with the way many of the properties in that area have been utilized. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shane. All right, that exhausts the 5 minutes for pro and con and the time for rebuttal. Mr. Groby, would you like to make a motion on this issue?
Mr. Shane? Yes. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I read the letter that you mailed to the council members recently explaining your point of view about this HMO that should be granted. As mentioned in the zoning commission hearing and explained in your letter on page 3, that if the Timberland Mobile Home Park would be included in this area, that the percentage goes much higher. However, what's not mentioned, of course, is there are other stick-built homes in the same general area that would theoretically run those numbers up as well. A further point I wanted to make is that in the Timberland Mobile Home Park, as it was reiterated by the appellant, is that it's a half-mile past the trace, and by no one stretch of an imagination should Timberland even have been considered as a contributing factor. If there were a case, then my subdivision, Whispering Pines, just on the other side of Cypress Bayou and only 600 to 700 feet away, could theoretically be pulled into the mix as well, because that's got an 80% home to mobile home mix. The Oak Lawn East subdivision is a finite defined area of limited streets as you provided for in your map. You also pointed out that at one time, the Oak Lawn East subdivision was under a building and ownership restriction dated from 1960. Although they've never enforced, it's never really been enforced because most of the residents have moved there since the 70s. Many didn't know it existed. They had found it in their research. You know, the subdivision, and what they do is they didn't know they had the right to object. When these trailers came in, they didn't know they had a right to object to it, so to speak. Upon arriving at Chambers this afternoon, I read a letter from a law firm, Gallant and Baklobaka, if I'm saying it correctly, that's been engaged with Mr. Fridge to monitor the zoning issue. I'm somewhat taken aback that in the letter, the attorney stated on the third paragraph is, the only reason that the recommendation might be revoked is based on political pressure from a few neighbors, residents who are interfering with my property rights, my client's rights. Personally, I'm offended by that, because if that were the case, I base my decisions on political pressure, then when a previous zoning case came before us that you represented 2 months ago, I should have theoretically caved to political pressure and sided with the residents in Lacombe against the property zoning on 190. I don't make my decisions like that. You know me well enough. You know, this is not an issue with political pressure. It's an issue of what's right. And along those lines, upon research, and I confirmed it tonight, from Sidney Fontenot, there is never, the nearest MHO was at Cleese Avenue and the mobile home Transmitter. There's one lot that I approved in my own subdivision, so I'm not against HMOs. I approved one in my own subdivision. I have to drive past every day because it was the right thing to do and nobody appealed it. In speaking with the residents, since 2002, there are approximately 12 homes built and only 5 mobile homes placed on lot, clearly showing the trend toward moving up. And in seeing the excellent presentation and points of view, I move that we override the zoning approval. Thank you.
I respond?
Sure.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Groby, with all due respect, I'm sorry if the letter offended you. It obviously was not authored by me, but I don't back away from it in that my client has property rights. And if you want to talk about the case that we had in your district 2 months ago, if you did the same thing tonight, you'd look at the staff report that you had 2 months ago, you'd look at the zoning commission recommendation that you had 2 months ago, and you'd look at the zoning that the property had prior to comprehensive rezoning, and you would find that you have the same exact characteristics in this case.
Not quite. The property on 190, sir, was always business before. This property has never been zoned for a mobile home. It's never had an overlay.
My point is simply this. There's none of the lots in the subdivision that are zoned MHO, but this property had a mobile home on it. The parallel is the
Was it
same.
there legally? We don't know. I mean, and that's for another discussion. All I'm saying is
Mr.
that
Groby, you brought the point up, and I'm going to respond to it. You make the decision, and the council will make the decision that you think is the best for the people of St. Tammany Parish. I honor and respect that. But we're not going to turn the facts to something that they're not. You're the one that brought up the case 2 months ago. That's why I respond in the manner that I do. As it relates to the restrictive covenants, there's no one that owns property in that subdivision that didn't go to an active sale and in all likely had owner's title insurance or title insurance for their lender, which would have told them that there are deed restrictions against the property. I don't know why people didn't respect, enforce, and honor those deed restrictions. But the point is, it doesn't really matter if there are other lots in the subdivision that have an MHO or not. What is important is there is a significant amount of mobile homes in that area on Nina Drive for many, many years. And what my client asked for is both compatible and consistent with what you find in the neighborhood.
Well, I appreciate the position, but there are 7 mobile homes and 24 houses on Nita Drive. The majority is overwhelming. Thank you.
All right, you want to put a motion on the floor, Mr. Groby?
Yes, sir. I'll move to override the zoning commission's approval for this lot.
Is there a second for that motion?
Yes.
Second?
Yeah, we want to talk.
Yeah, we got to get a motion on the floor. Right. I know you want to talk, Mr. Stefanczyk, but I need a second for Mr. Groby's motion.
And if he doesn't get one, we can continue our discussion like we normally do.
If he doesn't get one, it looks like it fails for lack of a motion.
Because we need that. There's a few of us who want to ask some questions.
Likewise.
Well, Mr. Parliamentarian, you want, what do you recommend that we do from this point
I'd recommend we continue the discussion until the end, and then you can put a motion on the
All
floor.
right, Mr. Groby, I'll go on with that. Will you withdraw your motion for the time being and allow some discussion?
Yes.
All right. The motion's been withdrawn. I'll go to Mr. Stefanczyk.
Thank you. Mr. Shane, I got a question. I got the letter that you sent out, and you brought copies today. I visited the site today, and drove around through the entire subdivision. This picture, what is that picture of?
the 3.5 acres?
When was that taken? About 5 years ago?
No, sir. It was taken at the time of filing, before the
Okay.
rainy,
I mean, I just drove by it today, and I know which lot. You
No, sir.
pointed it out, and you had it on there.
it has more growth on it now than what you see.
It's
But,
got a lot more growth on it. I was just wondering, so.
yes, sir, but it's all just
Okay.
greenscape. It's
Yeah.
still a nice, clean piece of property.
It is a nice, clean piece of property, but I just wondered if that was the lot, because that ain't what I looked at today. I just
Yes, sir.
wanted you to be aware, and I do realize the one across the street, I saw that one as this thing.
Did it look like that picture?
Yep.
Okay,
it
I
did.
just wanted to make sure.
This picture looked good, yes. Sydney, where's Sydney? Sydney, what was the rationale behind the staff approving this? And I'm going to say, what was the rationale, because I'm sitting here looking at this, just so everybody knows, I turned down a similar situation up in Pearl River because there was no mobile home overlays in a subdivision. There were several trailers and manufactured homes, whatever you want to call them, but there was no mobile home overlay anywhere in that subdivision, and once you put one in there, the precedent gets set. So why did the, I'm going to ask why you made the recommendation, and then why the zoning commission did not consider the precedent they're setting, or did they?
I cannot answer for why the zoning commission votes the way they do. I assume they looked at what the staff did, what the staff looked at is the number of mobile homes in both the subdivision and the area. That's why we made our recommendation. I assume that they looked at that same fact as well as the testimony and made the judgment that they made.
So, knowing the planning commission, they probably never considered that issue of, I mean, I'm a little concerned from a standpoint, like I said, the way I turned one down a couple of months ago, and the council turned it down, I asked them to, because it was and even in that case, it was where they were wanting to put a modular home on there for a relative, which just, I think if I was going to ever do anything, I'd do it there. I'm a little concerned whenever we set a precedent, and I understand the laws, especially the federal laws that we're looking at, and I think you pointed that out in your letter. I think Mr. Hand and I had a discussion concerning that. I certainly, if there had been other mobile home overlays in this area that we had allowed, or if this council had allowed trailers or manufactured homes to go in there, I would be more to look at saying, yes, we should, but I'm struggling because there are none in here. The lot is right in the middle of the subdivision, and I too am a little bit concerned that if you allow one, the next one, all of those ones that are in red might be the next people up here asking for a mobile home overlay. And anyhow, I just wanted to make those comments because I'm sitting here, I want to hear what everybody else has to say, but I am concerned, and from a legal standpoint, that we do initiate the mobile home overlay in this area.
Mr. Bellisario.
Okay, sorry I had to leave the room for a while, so I didn't hear all what Steve said. I was going to be talking to Sydney. When I read over this staff report, I've got apprehension to overturn because this is a solid report, and you had, I guess, a 10-zip vote. And what was the basis to come up with this strong staff report?
That was Mr. Stefansik's question, and we looked at the number of mobile homes in the subdivision being as high as it is, and that was the primary reason for our recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Canulet.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this or not, Sydney. Do we know how many total lots are in that subdivision? Just, I can't really see.
No, I sure don't.
So, does anyone, Mr. Shane, do y'all have a clue, what do y'all think this subdivision is built out? Is it built out 75%, 60%? It ain't gotta be perfect, just.
I'd be glad to share the
One at a
mic
time.
with
Come
Mr.
on up.
Tabry and tell you that I believe that as you look at the data we gave you attached to the letter, our data, it would suggest that there's about 100 residences in Oak Lawn East, and there's about 39% mobile home. We did not include in that number.
No, I understand that.
The trailer park.
I understand that.
So,
My question
his
is.
numbers were a little different than mine, I believe. So
Yeah, well, our percentage was 35, 60.
I understand. I'm talking
And
about,
I'm not-
I'm talking, what I'm asking is right
Total
now.
number of lots, which would include green space. We don't know, but here's a map, and I don't know what that
I
tells
can't
you.
read the numbers on my map, that's why.
Okay.
So y'all saying you think you see 65% built out, 70%?
Sir, I am a lot owner, 2 lots down from him, and prior to them lots behind, what he's trying to do there is approximately 12 to 14 acres of green space. And that's there.
Okay.
It hasn't been developed yet.
Okay.
So this could create a trailer park to come in.
Okay, all right. All right, okay, thank you.
Got it.
Chris?
Look, it's not productive for us to have comments from the public because you're not on the camera and we're not getting you on the tape. So if you have comments, I don't want to discourage you, but, we just need to do it in an orderly fashion.
Sir, it was only to answer the question of.
Well, that doesn't do any good either. Come up to the microphone. I'll give you an opportunity to speak if you want to. We're not here to
No,
restrict
sir.
you.
I was just
want-
trying to elaborate on the
Right.
number of lots that are
I'm just telling you,
available.
technically, we don't get it on the tape.
Yes, sir. I'm
If you'd like
James
to-
Cousin. I'm Lot 19 on Nina Drive.
Thank you.
The area there that she's indicating here is behind Lot 19 myself and also behind the property there. There's approximately, I don't know, about 12, 15 acres that's still available in the backside of that property there that eventually, we feel, could eventually turn into a trailer court if this was to take place.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Is that it, Chris? Mr. Stefanski.
I can probably answer a little bit of Chris's question on the net drive. There were 2 or 3 areas there that were wooded areas, if that's what you want to call them, and there were, one of them was several lots long. And on Diane Drive, there were some areas that were undeveloped, or still wooded areas. They're wooded, and I assume that's not developed, and I assume that's not part of what you're calling green space, because they were running out to actually coming out to the road. So I don't know how anyone could develop that green space into anything, as long as it was designated as a green space to begin with, and should have been locked in by the covenants or locked in by, Mr. Hand, something that should have been filed with the clerk of court, I would assume, because there's no ingress, egress to any of that area. And since it's surrounded basically by lots, except, I don't know how you would ever get that to be anything but green space. And I think, I don't think that your fears of that green space being developed into a mobile home area could ever happen. That's just not feasible, I don't believe.
Sir, may I approach?
Now, we're having discussion here. Our time has been exhausted. Are there any further questions? Mr. Bender, I believe your light's on.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to understand this because I'm looking at 2 different maps. I'm sorry, sir, how do you pronounce your name? I'm sorry, sir.
Tabbary?
Mr. Avery?
Tabbary.
Tabbary.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. You provided this map?
I did.
Okay. Let me just ask you, and I'm looking at both of them. I see Diane Street, and I see it here, and I see it here, okay? And then I see behind Diane Street, Tammany Trace Bike Trail, and I don't know what this is. Because I see dots here. I'm just trying to understand, because what do these dots face? Because I'm not seeing any lots. No, I understand. But these are lots that are part of the subdivision?
Yes, sir. They face, they're on Diane Street, and I believe, and Cheryl, Ms. Provence will correct me if I'm wrong, I believe as you go down off this map would be the trace.
Right. These houses are adjacent to the trace.
The trace
right.
is to
They're
the
in
rear of these houses,
Yes.
correct?
The trace is in the rear of the houses, yes.
No, I understand, but,
This is not on the map.
yeah.
But this is also Diane, yes. This is Diane, if you're going down Diane, and if you look to the left, there are the houses on the blue dots that you see on the left, and if you look to the right, you see that there are the red trailer and then 2 more blue dots. So it's just basically looking, if you're looking at Diane going down Diane, I have them to the left and to the right. It's not actually off of Diane, it's on Diane, and they are adjacent to the trace.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Tabor, could you fill in her name for the record?
Yes, that was Ms. Cheryl Provence, who is a homeowner in the property and a resident of Nina
Thank you.
Drive. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bender. The clerk is bending my ear.
Yeah. You know, I have in my council district a number of very similar subdivisions where you have mobile homes and you have houses right next to them. A mobile home across the street from the home, a house down the block, another mobile home, 2 houses, 3 mobile homes, etc. I've not had, frankly, any problems in these particular areas that I'm referring to. They have been a pretty good percentage of both. I have seen areas that 30 years ago were mostly mobile homes and now are 90% homes. One of my concerns that I'm hearing tonight, and of course, obviously, I think probably the people in the audience, no one was probably even involved at this time, but to see a covenant in the subdivision that in 1960, when it was created, did not allow mobile homes, but yet that's just about, it seems to me, everything that was put in there was mobile homes. So, no,
We're 2/3 strong in house.
Excuse me.
okay, excuse me,
Are you
Mr.
asking a question of the,
Well, if they want to, you know, if they want to say that I'm incorrect, I'm happy to hear that. But my question though is, that makes my point. Let me just say this. This is a concern that I have. If there were people building houses back in there in 1960, then I have a concern as to why did they allow mobile homes to come in? You have, well, excuse me, you have your own covenant. That covenant, okay, has overriding, it overrides the parish council. No, that covenant, I have subdivisions, we all have subdivisions that say a home has to be so many square feet. We all have subdivisions that have covenants and restrictions in it that say you have to be so many feet back from the street line. This might be more of a setback than the average parish ordinance if there is no subdivision that applies. So the very nature of the subdivision allows, as happened here, to say there can be only homes It could have gone further to say these homes can be only a minimum of so many square feet. The lot sizes have to be this big, et cetera, and including pertinent structures. One of the things that concerns me is that I'm hearing that there were homes from the beginning and there were mobile homes from the beginning. So the covenants were not enforced. Now, does somebody want to say the covenants have been enforced? I mean, I'm willing to hear from the audience, Mr. Chairman, if they're trying to say they have been enforced.
Yeah, I would rather not just open it to the audience, Mr. Bender, but allow Mr. Tabrey to
Yeah, that's
speak
fine.
on their behalf. And if he wishes then to defer over to one of the members, that would be okay. But we've got to do it with some
Yeah.
order here. Mr. Tabrey.
Mr. Bender,
Yes, sir.
obviously, mobile homes came in there at some point in time, and I don't know that we're saying they came in the early 60s, but they showed up, and the residents did not enforce the covenants. But what's important is the zoning that's situated in this subdivision is single-home residential. So no, the covenants are no longer legally enforceable, but the zoning there is single-family residential.
I understand.
And there are, a comment that you made earlier that there's mostly mobile homes in this subdivision. There is not mostly.
No. I never said there are
Well,
mostly.
then I apologize, I misunderstood you. That's what I thought you said.
Well, excuse me, let me also say, if I said that, I certainly misspoke, because the numbers don't show that.
Correct.
There's a considerable number of both. I think what I was trying to say is, I've seen subdivisions over time become 90% homes, okay, that used to be 70% mobile homes, okay? This is a closer balance than that, but certainly there's not more mobile homes than houses.
Correct. And this subdivision, as I stated earlier, is moving toward homes. And to repeat what Councilman Stefanczyk said, is this, if we grant this overlay, this becomes a very slippery slope. And you'll see everybody coming in there, and this will turn into a trailer park.
And I thank you for your answer. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr. Bender. Are there any further questions among my colleagues? Mr. Grovey.
Thank you. I just wanted to reiterate to my council members that, and confirm this just a little while ago with Sydney, the nearest MHO is at Cleese Avenue and, of course, the mobile home park, about a half mile down past the trace on Transmitter, and of course, one in my subdivision. This subdivision does not have a current MHO anywhere in it at all. Could you hold up that yellow map to define the subdivision, please? That is the official subdivision plat for East Oaklawn. There is not a single MHO anywhere in it. Thank you.
All right, I believe now it appears the discussion has concluded. Now, Mr. Grovey, would you place a motion on the floor?
Yes, sir. I'd like the motion to override the zoning approval. Thank you.
Now, can I get a second on that motion? The motion? Okay, we've got a second by Mr. Gould. Mr. Gould. Is there any further discussion on the motion on the floor? Anything from the administration? All right, then, none appearing, let's vote. Yes, Mr. Bender.
Excuse me. Just for clarification, I just want to, Mr. Grovey's motion is to override
the
the
zoning
decision of the zoning commission?
That's correct.
Okay, so to agree with Mr. Grovey's override would be a yes. To concur with the zoning commission would be a
No.
no.
That's
Okay,
correct.
thank you very much.
Wait. Right. We clear? So a yes vote is to overturn the action by the zoning commission, and a no vote is to approve the action by the zoning commission. Clear? Does anyone in the council have a question about the motion that's on the floor? None? Okay, let's please vote.
Mr. Stefanczyk? Motion fails with 8 nays, 4 yeas, and 1 abstention, 1 absent.
All right, the motion to override has failed.
Congratulations.
The commission's action then is concurred with. So we need someone to open, to introduce an ordinance.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Belisario to introduce an ordinance. Wait, at ease, hold on. Wait. Okay, you want to take an affirmative? All right, if someone, it's failed, so if someone wants to offer a motion then to concur with the zoning approval, I'll accept that motion. All right, motion by Mr. Stefanczyk, seconded by Mr. Artigue. I believe your hand went up first, Richie. Is there any discussion then on the motion to concur with the zoning approval? None appearing, then please vote.
Motion passes with 10 yeas, 1 nay, 1 abstention, and 1 absent.
Okay, now I'll need a motion to introduce an ordinance. Mr. Stefanczyk, seconded by Mr. Canulette. I believe that's all we need to do. Say again?
I counted you.
Thank you, Mr. Artigue. All right, we'll move then to the second item under appeals. Deborah Burst, Kelly Kreminski, and Terry Lewis Stevens appealing the Zoning Commission approval on June 3rd, 2014 to rezone 120 acres located on the east side of Lee Road Extension, just south of Washington St. Tammany Parish line, from A1 Suburban District to I1 Industrial District, Ward 2, District 6. Do we have any cards on this one? Surely we do. Okay, that's true. All right, so I'll remind everyone we'll have 5 minutes pro, 5 minutes against, and 2 minutes for rebuttal. Let's see, I know Ms. Stevens, you are present in the chambers. I don't know about Ms. Kreminski or Ms. Burst. Would you like to begin your presentation on your appeal?
I'm going to follow Parish, if that's okay.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Just remember you have 5 minutes total.
Okay, Terry Lewis Stevens, on behalf of CCST and concerned citizens of Covington. Because there's been no evidence of a demonstrated need for another gravel pit in the parish and no evidence of a life safety hazard due to the existence of this piece of property that's been used as a gravel pit, and because the proposed zoning leap is not in keeping with the abutting adjacent zoning of residential A1, which is all around it, the least dense category of residential zoning, and because no evidence has been presented that the abutting property owners have been adequately notified by registered mail of the impending zoning change, and because we have witnessed and presented previously our concerns that upon rezoning any industrial category, that the move to a less restrictive category of industrial zoning is much simpler. We respectfully ask Mr. Fontenot to clarify whether or not the current zoning ordinance that's in force today contains any allowable provision for oil and gas extraction, oil and gas excavation, and/or drilling activities within any industrial zoning category within the parish prior to your consideration to changing this from a residential zoning to an industrial 1, 2, 3, 4, or 4. Is that something we could have answered?
Not, it's up to the administration.
Just counting on her time.
Of course.
The I-1 has no provisions for the oil and gas exploration.
Of
Thank you,
any
Mr.
type,
Fontenot.
correct?
The I-1 has no provisions for oil or gas explorations,
Thank you, Mr. Fontenot.
drillings.
Okay, is there any other 2, 3, 4? That's what we're worried about also, is that if it goes I-2, it might be
Ms. Stevens, that's
available
not
to have
germane.
happen.
The question before us today is I-1.
Okay, thank
I
you.
believe that
Deborah would like to
question's been
speak
answered.
now. Thank you.
Great. Hold the time until she comes to the podium, Mr. Parliamentarian. Would you state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, Deborah Burst, and I live on Rue Coquille, nearby. I'm a 30-year resident, and I'm also a member of the CCST, Concerned Citizens of St. Tammany Parish. I was at the zoning committee meeting and voiced my opposition. And in following what Terry said, of course I concur, and I'm very concerned that right now, as y'all all know, we are in a very volatile state. Our parish, if we don't be very, very careful, can be turned into our worst nightmare. In my opinion, it's as bad as Katrina if we don't be careful. So we have to be very diligent in these zoning changes when you jump a huge leap from the residential area, the suburban residential area, to the industrial. I believe education is the key here, and I believe more and more citizens like myself need to be educated on what's involved. So I also have questions relative to some of the similar ones that Terry asked, and that is, how quickly can you move from an I-1 to an I-2 that involves drilling, well drilling services, or to an I-3 that involves natural gas?
Ms. Burst, I hate
Senator.
to interrupt you, but this is not germane to what we're talking about tonight.
But
We're
I'm
talking about
asking,
From A1 to A.
my
to
question,
I1.
but my question is, when you go from an I-1, I'm trying to be educated here. If you go to an I-1 and it's approved, what would be the next step to go to an I-2? Would it go through the zoning commission changes?
Yes, of course.
Okay. And what about the restrictions, or I should say the requirements when you have go to an I-1 and you have residential areas behind you? You have certain conditions, building fences, having a certain buffer around the property in question, the property that's being zoned. How do we learn whether those conditions are applied here? Do we have to go drive out there and look?
No, certainly you can make an
Okay.
appointment with a member of the staff, and they
Okay.
can provide you
And
the
they can-
information.
And they can let us know if everything's being done as it should be according to the guidelines.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burst. Does anyone else wish to speak on behalf of the appeal? Yes, sir, come to the podium and state your name and
20
address for the
seconds.
record. 20 seconds.
My name is John Arsamiak, and Wednesday I was at the Lee Road Library. Bring my kids there every Wednesday. I know where Lee Road is, by the way, Mr. Tanner. I know where I live, too.
20 seconds.
And while I was there, I counted the trucks that went by. I sat on a tailgate while the kids were in the library. There were 18 and 25-yard trucks and 7 10-yard trucks
Stand
in
by. You've
30
exhausted
minutes.
your 5 minutes, but you got 2 minutes rebuttal. Do you want to get into the
If you
rebuttal
don't
time?
mind, I
You've
can
got
get it
the
all
right
over at
to
once.
do so. Yes, sir.
So there were 18, I believe they're 25-yard trucks, 18-wheelers with the long, 18 of those and 7 10-yard trucks, which are the shorter ones, 10-wheel trucks, in a 30-minute period. So there's dirt coming out of there, not from the dirt pit, but from maybe the ones adjacent. And this is traffic going south on Lee Road. That's only southbound traffic I was counting. I didn't count the northbound traffic. And these were full trucks. And as you know, Mr. Tanner, on Lee Road, that shoulder's about that wide, about a foot wide. I don't know that we need another dirt pit there, and I certainly know we really don't need more traffic than that. That's almost 1 a minute, and that's a lot of traffic. And if we're going to have a dirt pit that's 3 times, 4 times the size of the original one, I think we might have traffic hazards and road wear that that are not being anticipated. And that's all I got to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Shane, I believe you represent the petitioners, so the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Falconer. Do they have any time left? They do? Thank you, sir. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm in Covington, and I represent Lee Road Dirt Pit LLC, which is the owner and also the applicant in this case. A few facts that I think are important. This very property was granted a conditional use permit in 1999 for the operation of what we'll call a soil excavation or dirt pit. That operation was abandoned some years ago, not when my client owned it. My client has only recently purchased it within the last 6 months or so. On this property, there's an existing pit that is probably at least 30 to 40 acres in depth. My client is in the dirt excavation business, contrary to some comments made this evening by Ms. Stevens as well as at the Zoning Commission. Where she gets gravel pit from, I don't know, but she continues to say that this is a gravel pit and this is about gravel, or that it's about oil and gas and other things that it clearly has nothing to do with. My client excavates dirt and in most cases provides it for the foundations of roads and homes throughout all of St. Tammany Parish and also in neighboring parishes. He sees this as a grand opportunity to continue to excavate soil, red dirt, from this pit and continue his business. There are 2 pits literally to the east of him that have been in operation for many years. If in fact you see fit to confirm the recommendation and ordain this property to be I-1, my client will have to procure an administrative permit. There are very, complicated and detailed provisions in your law, Section 8.01 AV, that talk about the buffers and signage and all sorts of things that need to be taken care of. So my client is a professional, he's in the business, he's experienced, and your code no longer allows for a revival of the prior conditional use permit. In fact, the only way you can continue to excavate dirt from this pit that's been there roughly 15 years is to change the zoning to I-1. That is the path that we have chosen. If in fact the zoning is changed, we will pursue, of course, procuring the administrative permit. We fully intend to comply with every law and regulation that you have. And I believe that a piece of property that literally is bordering Washington Parish, has a 15-year history as a dirt pit, and has 2 ongoing dirt pits immediately adjacent to it for many, many years. If this isn't consistent and compatible with the land use in the area, I don't know what is. I ask you to follow the recommendation of the Zoning Commission and make this property I-1. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Shane. I'll allow the final minute. Ms. Stevens, Ms. Burst, do either of you want to take that time?
I think all things considered, it would go a long way if the petitioner would agree in writing not to use this property at any time or rezone this property for oil and gas exploration in the future. I think that would be a really great compromise on this particular situation, Mr. Tanner, because then everyone's worries would be put to rest and we wouldn't have to be concerned about that. But that's just an option to be considered, just to put people's minds at rest when you go from a residential A1, the least dense residential zoning, to industrial 1, knowing it can be changed again. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. Mr. Shane, did you want to take rebuttal time?
The suggestion of a deed restriction is rejected because I don't think it's necessary or appropriate. My client is not talking oil and gas. Only Ms. Stevens and her comrades are talking about that as it relates to this case. That is not a negative comment toward CCST or anyone else in our parish that has thoughts and opinions on oil and gas. But I do not understand how my clients Ownership of a piece of property that has a dirt pit should be confused with the misplaced agenda of others. I ask you to make this I-1.
Thank you, Mr. Shane. Then I'll call the public hearing to close and ask, I'll go to Ms. O'Brien for comments and questions.
I just wanted to ask about the notification to the residents. That was one of the things that was brought up. Can y'all explain the notification process that was done?
There has been over a year a request to, by mail, notify every homeowner within a certain radius. And as we have talked about before, we are trying to get our GIS district together so we can get the software that we can find those people so we can do that. We're in the process, we got the legislation, we're going there, but it is not available to us at this point in time to do it easily. We could send someone up and research every person in the whole area, but we don't have the personnel nor the resources to do that at this point in time, but we are moving toward that, but it is not available at this time. We put the signs up as required by our charter, and we have enlarged those signs, and we will do, and we have enhanced our website when there is a pending zoning case. We have enhanced our website. You can go on there and look at everything. And we will eventually be able to do what has been requested, but it is not available now.
Mr. Smith.
Yes, I have one question, and it's pertinent to the gentleman that spoke with the glasses. Yes, if I may, Mr. Chairman?
Certainly.
He made mention of a fact that I think we may be overlooking or maybe not considering, and that is the truck traffic that will probably be accumulated or generated as a result of the dirt pit operations. I happen to live on a similar road in an area where when I see these types of projects, not as large as this one, take place, that I am subjected to a lot of 18-wheeler truck traffic, and they don't play. But anyway, I think that's a consideration that I would like to find out from Mr. Tanner and Mr. Shane representing the petition, if they would be willing to talk to us about right now hours of operations maybe as a consideration in this matter of the pit operations.
Mr. Shane, do you have anything to offer in response?
Mr. Fontenot, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Section 8.01 AV has restrictions on days and times. But in addition to that, I would tell you that we would probably operate in the same manner that the other pits in that area operate now. So I think you could assume that it would certainly be Monday to Friday, and also on certain occasions on Saturday, and probably early morning hours, 6:30, something like that, 7, till probably 5 or 6 in the evening. And that would vary depending on what's going on with business and what's going on with weather. You have a bad run of weather for 2 weeks, you sometimes try to make up some lost time, if you will, due to bad weather. But I think that should give you an idea of the amount of truck traffic. And this property will not, this is probably, we have been putting together the administrative permit, and we are projecting this as a 20 to 25-year excavation plan, which means this property is not going to be excavated overnight. There are not going to be tens and tens of trucks running each hour in and out of this pit. Simply just not the nature of the business. It is a resource that will give my client a bank, if you will, a place that he can go to get dirt as his jobs require. I hope that helps to some degree.
It does to a degree, but it still does not give me the detailed information that I was maybe looking for as to, based on his experience in these types of operations, that will give us an idea of how many trucks will be running when school bus hours are in operation, when people are in peak time going to work and coming back from work in the afternoon, as a consideration for the hours of operation that they might be able to put in place to address those safety issues.
Well, none of the trucks will be running on parish roads or through neighborhoods. It will all be on state highways and to the interstate or to the causeway. So I don't think any concerns with regard to what you and I would call local arteries, they will not be used. because the property abuts a state highway, and the trucks will come due south. As I said, it would be impossible to project the number of trucks or the schedule, because we just don't know what the demand will be. But as I've said before, I think it will be probably consistent with what the other two pits do there now. And to my knowledge, there are no problems as it relates to traffic from those two pits.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Certainly.
Would like to know if we could offer a friendly amendment to the ordinance that would allow for hours of operation not to include school bus hours in the morning and in the afternoon as a safety precaution. I live on a parish road, but it's adjacent to a state highway, 1091. And it's where I have direct experience with excavation projects and 18-wheelers, but the big trucks rather, and no disregard for the local traffic. But I'd like to offer that as a friendly amendment that we add to the ordinance, if I can get a second on it.
Mr. Smith, there's not an underlying motion yet on the floor, so let's just hang on to that and finish our discussion and get a motion on the floor, and we'll come back to you.
Thank you.
Is that okay? Mr. Bender.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Shane, I have a few questions.
Yes, sir.
I heard you mention that this was an active dirt pit for 15 years. But correct me if I'm wrong, it has been inactive?
Yes, for the last 5 years or so, plus or minus, that is correct.
Okay.
And the conditional use permit expired after 6 months of non-use due to inactivity.
Right.
Your prior code would have said that conditional use permit became inactive, and you have no conditional use permit provisions now.
Okay. You mentioned also that there are other dirt pits that are relatively close or in the approximate vicinity of this property?
Yes, sir. There are two that are as close as you can be. Literally abutting our property line to the east, there is a dirt pit, and then another pit immediately abutting the eastern line of that property. So if you could picture in simple terms, 3 dirt pits lined up side by side against the parish line, as far north as you can go in St. Tammany Parish.
Okay, and those pieces of property are owned by different people?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's not a mutual owner?
No, sir. They're two different operators, and I think the life of those pits, would it be maybe 15 years or so? 10 to 15 years? I'm guessing. It's not 2 years, but they've been there a considerable period of time, and each are active pits today.
Okay, thank you. One last question, please. As I'm looking at the backup documentation, am I reading this correct, that one pit would be 20.7 acres and another pit would be 4.14 acres? Is that the reason for that there?
No, sir. It's a little misleading, the drawing, or better said, maybe it requires explanation.
Please.
The tract was originally, in 1999, 144 acres.
Okay.
3 parcels within the tract were sold off through the years. And those are the parcels that were sold off that my client does not own. Some of those parcels, you'll note, were partially excavated. Or maybe if you don't have the Google, you might not be able to see that.
Okay.
But to answer your question, my client was only able to purchase 120 acres because there were roughly 22 acres that had been sold off in those 3 sales.
Okay. And we have we have dirt pits abutting 2 pieces of property next to this with separate owners.
Yes, sir. That is
Thank you.
correct.
Thank you, Mr. Bender. Mr. Canulet.
Yeah, Jeff, come right, don't run off. Maybe even the owner might be able to answer. But my first question is, in the past, were y'all set up to run the dirt pit at night? And do you have existing equipment out there that it can run at night?
Well, we have never operated this pit, but we do not plan to operate at night and will not operate at night. and I'm not sure if code allows us to operate at night, but that's an easy stipulation to give you that we will not run at night.
Okay. And the second question is, if the area was to come into a boom, and if you really started hammering on your pit, realistically, what do you think, how long would it take to get to where you can't operate the pit no more? 4 years, 5 years?
Oh, no, much longer than that. We estimate, based on our drawing to excavate, of course, has to include 100-foot buffers from each and every property line. And what's interesting is you also have 100-foot buffers from those 3 interior parcels that have been sold off. So it's not just a buffer inside the perimeter of the tract. You have buffers within the tract because there's some parcels that were sold out. We think that there may be approximately 70 acres or so that can be excavated in terms of area. And we project, again, that that could be as much as 20 to 25 years, depending on economy.
Mr. Groby.
Yes, sir. I just have a quick question. I'm a little confused. The original size of the plot, when it was an active dirt pit, how many acres was that one? The number's kind of...
I want to look at it, but I'm pretty sure that it was 144 back in 1999.
Mhm.
Is that right, Mr. Fontenot? 142 or 144?
Okay. All
And
right.
it's reduced now because of those 3 sellouts.
All right, thank you.
All right, that appears to exhaust our discussion on this topic. I'll go to you, Mr. Tanner.
Thank you, Mr. Falconer. Thank community and Mr. Shane for making that presentation. I have a couple of comments. Number one, Lee Road, I see the signs just like everybody else does. You know, pray for me, I live on Lee Road. But Lee Road has been upgraded somewhat. There's still no shoulders and what have you, but there is a speed limit. And most of the dirt trucks are going in different directions. All of them come through Barker's Corner, whether they come in from 435, from 1129, from 40, from Isabel Swamp Road, a lot of them. So, yeah, there's a lot of dump trucks, gravel trucks, dirt trucks, whatever you want to call them up there. But let me tell you, sitting in every one of those trucks is a person that's making a living for his family. Those are jobs, people. They're not riding because they want to. Those are jobs that those people in that area have made livings on for lots of times. And if it wasn't for those people, places like the Sanctuary, Beauchene, Country Club, all these places, Dove Park, all these places down here wouldn't be built because we got the fill up there that goes under those houses. So, you know, it doesn't make sense. You know, I don't understand why. I have never sat here and said anything about not fraction or anything else, and why you would think that I would come up and make a motion trying to be underhanded to get oil drilling in 120 acres in North St. Tammany, when if they wanted to put a unit in, they could put it right across next to this pit in Washington Parish, and we couldn't say a damn thing about it. So, I mean, we're not protecting anything by, you know, saying we don't want any oil drilling in this particular pit, and we're not going to drill any oil in this. I promise you there will be no oil drilled in that pit. I'm not putting anything in writing. It's not my job to do that. But, you know, it just doesn't make sense to be against something because, and I'm worried about being reelected. I'm here to represent the people in my district. So you put your sign down. Mr. Chairman, I move that we concur with zoning approval on this project.
All right, there's a motion by Mr. Tanner and a second by Mr. Thompson. to concur with the zoning approval of this item. Mr. Tanner, will you be willing to accept a friendly amendment offered a moment ago by Mr. Smith?
Absolutely not.
All right. Mr. Smith, I believe that that was a friendly offer and a, well, semi-friendly response.
Well, if I may, Mr. Chairman?
Sure, Mr.
If
Smith.
it will not accept a friendly motion amendment, then we'll make a hostile one then. And we will offer at this time, if we can get a second to offer an amendment to the motion to restrict the hours of operation in the morning and in the afternoon.
All right, let me see if I can get a motion on the floor, Mr. Shane.
I'd like to speak before you.
Okay, please do that, if it's
I
germane.
appreciate the opportunity. I think it's illegal and improper to try to put a condition or an amendment to a change of zoning. This is basic law. You either change it or you don't, and that doesn't mean I don't want you to change it, but this is not a conditional use permit hearing, and I say that with respect, Mr. Smith. It wouldn't matter if what the changes were, even if we agreed to them. I want to make sure that your lawyer advises you before you take these steps. I do not believe it's appropriate to place conditions via amendment on a change of zoning, and thank you for the time.
Mr. Haynes.
That is correct. This basically amounts to conditional zoning, which we do not have in St. Tammany Parish.
They'll be asking for a conditional use for that pit, because it's not allowed in I-1.
You're out of order, Ms. Stevens. If you want to talk, we'll be glad to talk to you after the meeting, but not,
But the vote will
our,
be
our,
done by.
our conversation, our public hearing is ended. Mr. Bellisario, did you have a comment before we,
Well, Jeff interrupted me because I wasn't speaking the fact that that's a conditional use request, which is not legal.
you got your point in there, that's good.
And
Mr.
I'm-
Smith?
And I'm satisfied with the legal opinion.
Great, thank you. Mr. Bender?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just want to make sure I understand this. And I heard what Ms. Stevens said back there, but I want to make sure that I understand this. Sydney, for a gravel pit, I-1 is the correct zoning, am I right?
Yes, it is. It's an administrative permit, which means that you have the additional conditions in the section that Mr. Shane referenced. If you remember, a number of years ago, we went through extensive meetings on the pits and setbacks, 300-foot on
Right.
wildlife management areas, that type of thing. That's what the AP does. It pulls those extra conditions in.
Thank
But it is a permitted use.
All right, then I believe we've exhausted this discussion. There's a motion and a second on the floor. Please vote.
Motion passes with 1 abstention and 1 absent.
All right, we'll move to appeal number 3, Atonia, I'm sorry. We've got to adopt an ordinance, I apologize, yep. This one has, this ordinance has already been pre-introduced, so we'll have a motion by Mr. Tanner to adopt the ordinance number 5215,
So moved.
seconded by Mr. Thompson. Mr. Bellisario?
No, just waiting for appeal
Oh, I'm
number
sorry.
3.
I saw your light on. Is there any further discussion on adopting an ordinance 5215 to ratify the zoning approval, concurrence with the zoning approval? Mr. Stefanski?
I think you're getting way out of order somewhere. We didn't move anything up.
Well, we have to approve an ordinance. It happens that we have an item further on the agenda. It will make actually item 5215 moot. We will be adopting an ordinance to approve this concurrence, separate from the one that's later in the agenda. Correct?
Yeah, item 21, he's, Reed's talking
I was
about.
looking at.
Would you feel more comfortable, Mr. Parliamentarian, if we just make a motion to move that item up?
I'll make a motion to move it up, yes.
There we go.
because that's
Is there a
what-
second to the motion to move the
Second.
item up? Seconded by Mr. Bellisario. Any further discussion? We're moving item 5215 up to this position in the agenda. Any further discussion? Please vote. Voting to move it up.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
All right, now we will vote. Now that we've moved it up, we're going to, in fact, let me read that just to be sure that we do this correctly. It is item number 21 on the agenda, ordinance calendar number 5215, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 120 acres from A1 to I1, Ward 2, District 6. Mr. Tanner, can I get a motion on this one?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Tanner, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Now we'll move to appeal number 3, Antonio Polizzi, Rodney Holman, and Cynthia McDonald et al. Appealing the zoning commission approval on June 3rd, 2014 to rezone 4.46 acres located north of Herwood Bluff Road, east of Military Road from A4 Single Family to AT1 Animal Training and Housing District, Ward 8, District 9. Mr. Bellisario.
Yes, I've spoken to both parties on this appeal, and I'm making a motion to postpone until the August 7th Parish Council meeting.
All right, there's a motion by Mr. Bellisario, seconded by Mr. Canulet, to postpone this item to our next regularly scheduled council meeting. Any further discussion on the motion to postpone? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Now, moving to ordinances for adoption. Number 1, ordinance calendar number 5170, ordinance to amend the Parish Unified Development Code zoning regarding MD1, MD2, and MD3 relative to buffer, setback, and height regulation. Mr. Gould.
Move to postpone until the September meeting.
Motion to postpone by Mr. Gould, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Any further discussion on the motion to postpone? Please vote.
Mr. Gould.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Motion is
My
unanimous,
motion,
one
we will vote.
absent.
Item number 2, ordinance calendar number 5172, ordinance to amend and reenact section 3.3-164 location restrictions of the alcoholic beverage regulations under Article 7, all wards. Mr. Gould.
Move to postpone until September meeting.
Motion to postpone to our September meeting, second by Mr. Thompson. Motion by Mr. Gould. Any further discussion on the postponement? Not appearing, please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Item number 3, ordinance calendar number 5195, ordinance to extend for an additional 6 months the moratorium on the opening of new streets in Angelic Estates, Ward 3, District 5. Mr. Gould. Motion by Mr. Gould, seconded by Mr. Groby. Any discussion on the item? Not appearing, then please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Item number 4, ordinance calendar number 5196, ordinance to extend for 6 months the moratorium on property abutting Louisiana 21 Planned Carter, Ward 1, District 1. Motion by Mr. Thompson, seconded by Mr. Tanner. Any further discussion on the item? Anything from the administration? Not appearing, then please vote.
Motion is unanimous, two absent.
Item number 5, ordinance calendar number 5197, ordinance to authorize the parish president to acquire property for the Hidden Oaks Lane Drainage Project, Ward 8, District 8. Mr. Canulet.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Canulet, second thunderously by Mr. Bellisario. Is there any further discussion on the item? Any comment from the administration? Not appearing, then please vote.
You ought to see it. The canal is green space.
Mr. Bellisario, Mr. Bender,
Make a thunderous vote, Mr. Bellisario. Thunderous.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Item number 6, ordinance calendar number 5199, ordinance to amend the parish code regarding accessory buildings and structures to increase the permitted size of boathouses. Mr.
We
Artigue.
have to postpone it until September. Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Artigue, seconded by Mr. Gould.
No thunder?
Also thunderously over there. To the September meeting, Mr. Artigue? Very well. Any further discussion? Not appearing, administration, anything? Not appearing, then please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Item number 7, ordinance calendar number 5200, ordinance to amend the parish code appendix C, Unified Development Code, Article 2 definitions relative to community home. Mr. Bellisario.
Motion to postpone to the September 2014, because they have to go to zoning commission.
Motion by Mr. Bellisario, seconded by very discreetly by Mr. Canulet. Is there any further discussion on the motion to postpone to the September meeting? Anything from the administration? None appearing, then please vote.
Mr. Artigue? Yes. Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Item number 8, ordinance calendar number 5201, ordinance to amend the ordinance council series numbers 030723 and 11-2569 to approve necessary changes to election precincts. Mr. Henderson.
Yes, sir, we need to postpone that until next month. We're still waiting for information back from the state.
Great, thank you, Mr. Henderson. Motion by Mr. Stefanczyk, seconded by Mr. Artigue to postpone this to the August meeting. Is that correct? Mr. Stefanczyk, is your motion to postpone to August? Great. Any further discussion on the item? Yeah, Mr. Artigue, seconded. None appearing, then please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Item number 9, ordinance calendar number 5202, ordinance to authorize the parish president to accept the dedication and donation of Chat Court and to incorporate Chat Court into the parish road and drainage maintenance system, Ward 5, District 6. Mr. Tanner. Motion by Mr. Tanner, seconded by Mr. Gould. Any further discussion on the item? Anything from the administration? None appearing, then please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Item number 10, ordinance calendar number 5203, ordinance to authorize the parish president to acquire by donation a certain utility servitude from Woodlands Property Owners Association, Ward 4, District 5 and 7. Mr. Gould or Mr. Groby? Mr. Gould, motion, seconded by Mr. Groby. Any further discussion on the item? Anything from the administration? Not appearing, then please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Number 11, ordinance calendar number 5204, ordinance accepting finalized subdivisions into the road and drainage inventory, specifically Magnolia Trace subdivision, Ward 8, District 9. Mr. Bellisario.
So moved quietly.
Motion by Mr. Bellisario, seconded by Mr. Canulet. Any further discussion on the item? Nothing from the administration? None appearing, please vote.
Mr. Bellisario? Yes. Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Item number 12, ordinance calendar number 5205, ordinance to correct the road and drainage inventory, wards 2, 3, 4, 8, and 9, districts 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 11. Is there a motion for this? Mr. Thompson, seconded by Mr. Gould. Is there any further discussion on this item? Anything from the administration? Not appearing, then please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Get that finger over there. Item number 13, ordinance calendar number 5206, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 3.02 acres from HC3 to I1, Ward 8, District 14. Mr. Smith.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to postpone to February's meeting.
The motion is on the floor to postpone this item to the February meeting, seconded by Mr. Artigue. Is it? That's what he said, February 2015.
That's correct.
Is there any particular, just why February?
Yes, that's about the time that we think that some activity that the petitioner is involved with will give them an opportunity to look at this again.
It is with forethought that he's doing that. Mr. Tanner?
I just wondered if we could get my colleague on the end to accept a friendly amendment.
Absolutely not.
How about a hostile?
All right, there's a motion on the floor to postpone this to the February 2015 meeting, and a second by Mr. Artigue. Any further discussion on the item? Any friendly or hostile amendments to be further offered? Anything from the administration? None appearing, then please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Item 14, ordinance calendar number 5208, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 2.03 acres from A4 to PF1, Ward 9, District 11. Mr. Stefanczyk.
Move to postpone to next month. There still haven't worked out all the problems.
Move to postpone to the August meeting by motion by Mr. Stefanczyk, seconded by Mr. Canulet. Any further discussion on the item? Anything from the administration? None appearing, then please vote. Gentlemen, please vote.
Mr. Stefanczyk, Mr. Smith. Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Item 15, ordinance calendar number 5209, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify .24 acres from A6 to A4A, Ward 9, District 13. Mr. Artigue. Motion by Mr. Artigue, seconded by Mr. Smith. Any further discussion on the item? None appearing, please vote.
Motion is unanimous, two absent.
Item number 16, ordinance calendar number 5210, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 11.466 acres from A1 to A1A, Ward 2, District 6. Mr. Tanner. Motion by Mr. Tanner, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Any further discussion on the item? Anything from the administration? None appearing, please vote.
Motion is unanimous, two absent.
Item number 17, ordinance calendar number 5211, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 38,203 square feet from A4 to A4A, Ward 4, District 10. Ms. O'Brien.
Yeah, I wanted to address something before we voted. The staff was not completely opposed to the request, but they had some concerns about the fact that A4A would allow the creation of 4 lots. So we have someone from the audience who's going to speak on behalf of Rob Rozier, the developer.
Hi, I'm Bruce Gaker, here to represent Rob Rozier, who isn't available because he has an illness he was operated on recently and was under the weather.
Would you repeat your name and state
Bruce
your address?
Gaker.
For the
13145 Village Trace, Folsom, Louisiana.
Great, thank you.
And while he couldn't be here, he wanted to convey to everybody what an extraordinary effort and the appreciation that he has for all the efforts that you made, Maureen, to get with the residents and the homeowners and to bring everybody together, to get Terry Hand and Sydney and Helen, everybody to the meetings, and to answer all the questions for the residents that they had. Originally, this was a request to rezone it so that it could be converted into 4 lots. And after talking with the residents, it pretty well was agreed, and they didn't have any objection to making it into 3 lots. And so we recorded some restrictions that say exactly how those lots will be divided and what street that they'll face. And you seemed to answer all the objections, and the homeowners seemed very happy with the way it was going to take place.
Yeah, and we just wanted it as a matter of public record that this compromise was agreed to and a deed restriction is filed with the clerk of court. So I move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ms. O'Brien, second by Mr. Stefanczyk to approve this item. Any further discussion on the item? Anything from the administration? Not appearing, then please vote.
Motion passes with 12 yeas, 1 nay, and 1 absent.
Item number 18, ordinance calendar number 5212, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 3.98 acres from HC1 to HC2, Ward 1, District 4. Mr. Gould. Motion by Mr. Gould, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Any discussion on the item? Anything from the administration? Not appearing, please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Number 19, ordinance calendar number 5213, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 11,000 square feet from A4 to A4 manufactured housing overlay, Ward 8, District 14. Mr. Smith.
I move to adopt.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Bender. Is there any further discussion on the item? Anything from the administration? Not appearing, then please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Item number 20, ordinance calendar number 5214, ordinance to amend the 2014 operating budget, amendment number 5. Is there a motion to approve this item? Motion by Mr. Belisario, seconded by Mr. Stefanczyk. Any further discussion on the item? Anything from the administration? Not appearing, then please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
We have previously moved up and approved item number 21, so I'm moving to number 22, ordinance calendar number 5218, ordinance authorizing the parish president to purchase 296 acres comprising the former Southeast Louisiana Hospital from the state of Louisiana, Ward 4, District 7. Is there a motion on this item?
It's already been.
We already did those.
Moved to remove, it's adopted at the June
Yeah,
25th.
that's
Yeah, we
25th.
yeah, we moved it. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, 22, 23, and
So it's been
24.
removed. We don't need a motion to remove it from the agenda. Okay, we need a motion to remove by Mr. Tanner, seconded by Mr. Stefanczyk. Any further discussion? Please vote. Wait, you got to clear it. Sorry.
Mr. Thompson, Mr. Gould. Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Next item is item 23, ordinance calendar number 5219, ordinance to amend the parish code, creating the St. Tammany Parish Sub-Drainage District Number 5 of Gravity Drainage District Number 5. This item was introduced at our special council meeting on the 25th of June, so I'll go to Mr. Gould for a motion.
Well, I got a question. We already created this district in June. Why are we recreating it a second time? Emergency adoption, that's correct. It was created, and once you create it, it doesn't go away.
Reed, we did all 3 of them.
Right, I understand. Please.
Mike?
It was created by emergency ordinance, which under the charter can have a life up to 60 days. So it was necessary to adopt a regular ordinance, if you will, to
All right.
extend the life permanently.
Okay, I appreciate that. All right, well then we'll move to adopt.
Motion by Mr. Gould, second by Mr. Canulette to adopt item number 23. Is there any further discussion on the item? Anything from the administration? Not appearing, then please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
I believe the same will hold then for 24, ordinance calendar number 5220, ordinance to amend the parish code to make changes to provisions for the issuance of special event permits, and also introduced in June. So motion by then Mr. Gould, seconded by Mr. Belisario. Any further discussion on this item? Not appearing, then please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Under appointments, we have one appointment, a resolution to appoint Phil Rapt and E. Dale Robeson to the board for the St. Tammany Parish Gravity Drainage District Number 6. Mr. Sharp? I don't believe we need a second nomination. Well, we have a motion by Mr. Sharp, seconded by Mr. Gould. This is a district, so we don't have to have it lay over, so we can go ahead and vote, so please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Final area on the agenda is discussion and other matters. Number one, motion to refer to the zoning commission the proposed creation of a new zoning classification entitled AT2, Animal Training and Housing District, to provide for the location of small-scale animal-related functions to minimize the conflict with nearby residential uses. Mr. Bellisario.
Make a motion to postpone to the August meeting.
Motion to postpone by Mr. Bellisario to the August meeting, seconded by Mr. Canulets. Any further discussion on the motion to postpone? None appearing. Anything from the administration? None appearing. Then please vote.
No, it was clear.
Mr. Gould? Mr. Gould is absent.
He's knocked out. Motion is unanimous, two absent.
With the looming deadline of 8:30 approaching, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Stefancic, seconded by Ms. O'Brien. Thank you very much. We are adjourned.